Hey, everybody, I'm glad we all came this evening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I'd like to call to order the Bloomington Historic Preservation Commission meeting to order, Thursday, April 13th, 2023.
Something is wrong with the audio on Zoom.
Speaker's working.
That is working.
Give me a second, thing.
Oh, okay. Looks easier for me.
No.
Everyone is breaking up really bad.
It's on the owl there, Gloria. Is it that problem?
Can you hear us?
I could hear you then.
Can you hear us now?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Okay, great. So
Great.
you called roll?
Yes, please, Dee.
Okay. Marlene Newman. Doug Bruce.
Here.
Daniel Schlegel.
Here.
Sam DeSaller.
Here.
I'm not hearing anybody again.
Here.
So Sam
I can barely hear you.
Sam is here.
Where's your mic?
No, that's
They
connected
don't work.
to.
It's-
Here, here, Sam's here, Sam's here.
It's with the owl.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can't hear anything now.
Can you hear us now?
I can hear you, Gloria, but everybody else is breaking up.
Are the mics?
Surely you can hear me.
I heard you that time.
Okay, everybody's gonna have to yell.
Or speak directly into the microphone, I guess.
What's the owl? The
It looks like you're muted on there, and John's the one that's active on the right
Maybe.
side. Because under you, Gloria, your microphone has
Yeah.
that.
Give me 1 second. Oh, John, you should be muted.
I am muted, all right? I don't have my audio on. Go ahead and.
I think I might be able to hear you now. So I think I left off with Matt Sutton.
Matt is not here.
Okay, John Saunders,
Here,
Elizabeth Mitchell,
Here.
Allison Chopra,
Here.
Bernard Cross,
Here.
Duncan Campbell,
Here.
Kirsten Hawley, Ernesto Castaneda, Chris Sturbaum.
Nope.
okay, great, thank you, Dee. All right, let's move on to approval of the minutes from March 23rd, 2023. I'll need a motion.
I'd like to move to approve with an amendment that in the minutes that I did not move to approve COA 23-15, I move to postpone it.
All right. Second,
I second.
all right, Dee. Dee, can you hear us? She can't hear anybody.
She can't hear us again.
It looks like you're muted.
It's the tall one, the yellow one.
No. The only one that should not be muted is the
The house.
owl.
Sam, it was just a motion to approve?
Hmm?
A motion to approve?
It was listed as approval and I was
Dee, can you
postponed.
hear us?
I didn't approve, I was like,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
You're moving to postpone.
I don't think
Yeah.
can hear.
not approval.
Give
I
me
don't
1
want approval.
second.
Yeah, no, she can't hear us.
Until they're redone.
Then I have to get IT.
Until they give us drawings that say what they're doing. There was that little house in Matlock Heights. Were you here last time around? No.
They pulled that petition.
Hi, Karina.
I heard they pulled
But
that.
that doesn't mean the minutes
Yeah,
are
they pulled it
accurate.
this week.
But
But
that
it's
doesn't
just the
make-
minutes last week.
Good to
Stated
see
you
you.
approved their petition, which I
Is
don't
this
think I
gonna
want to
be a
be.
regular meeting on Thursday?
Let it
night?
stand.
But
Okay.
could you explain your motion though?
I'm
Because,
glad
I
you
mean, the
did.
minutes are accurate.
Thank
The
you.
minutes are accurate, correct?
Yes.
They are not accurate
Because,
because the minutes state that I moved to approve it.
okay, so you need to either change or.
Yeah, so I'm saying change the minutes to what I actually said.
That's what I
and-
was saying, yeah,
that's,
okay,
that's all I'm
okay.
saying. Yeah,
That's what I thought you were trying to get
yeah,
at.
that's what I'm getting at.
Got it. You might,
That's what I said the first time, I'm not gonna say it again.
I don't think anyone.
We haven't heard anything from anyone since you left.
Text.
Is this the mouse for that?
Yes.
Oh.
And this.
Oh, there it is. That works.
Dee, can you hear us?
D? Not yet.
Dee, can you hear me?
Can anybody, if any of the guests online can hear us, can you raise your hands? Any of the online participants, can you please raise your hands?
Peter, I think they can hear us. Peter, from April City can hear you.
And Richard, okay.
Some of them can hear, but can we hear them?
They're all hearing us.
Give me 1 second, I need to,
Just D the camera.
allow people to unmute themselves right now.
Are we working?
Okay, I'm just doing a test right now. Justin, can you unmute yourself and say something? We're just testing the system.
Hello, Gloria.
Okay, excellent, we heard you. You can mute yourself now, thanks.
So if he can hear us and we can hear him, it just must be individual users that maybe not
Okay,
be able to enable or.
Dee, can you hear us?
You, Kristen?
D?
Sam? You go sit down.
D is muted, but.
It's nice here.
Sure, right here. So you're gonna do anything with Dee?
I'm texting her right now.
Okay.
You know who I am.
You wanna tell Dee that Kristen Holly is here?
Oh, Yes, I will. Yeah. We hadn't met yet, and I gave her the sign-in sheet, and you actually,
No, I've never been here in person, so.
I know, we always see.
Okay, Dia's gonna log out and back in to see if we can, if it's a her issue and not just one. Thank you so much for responding so quickly.
It's all right. So Dee was going to talk and actually present.
No,
She-
takes roll.
All right, so she has to be audible.
Yeah.
I can just take.
We'll deify you.
Yeah, we'll deify you.
Yeah. We need to do that, I'm happy to. fill in. Otherwise, quick agenda stuff. Yeah, now that I've said that.
I was gonna say,
Did you just let Dee in? I thought she was in the waiting room, maybe?
yeah, I just let her in.
Oh.
Hey Dee, can you hear us?
I hear you.
Yay! Okay, we're gonna try again.
Somebody.
No, it's me. It's mommy.
volume.
There we go. I was trying to turn the volume
There
down.
you go, there you go.
Sorry.
There's a lot of muffled, I mean, it's very muffled,
Okay.
Can you hear me?
barely.
Oh.
Might just ask everybody to have no background noise or sort of soft talking, I think it could be.
No discussion?
That's up to you.
with my mouth
That's up to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think that could cause.
All right. So Dee, did you get the approval? We need to take the roll for the approval of the minutes.
Yes, I need that again.
Okay.
Okay. So, Doug Bruce,
Abstain?
Daniel Schlegel,
Can I make
This
a
is with
clarification?
your
This is a motion to not approve.
No, it's a
No.
motion to approve our minutes. from
No.
last
Amended
No.
minutes.
Amended minutes, yeah.
Yes.
You did make that amendment.
Yes.
Okay, I
that's
just
what
wanted to
wanted
double
make
check
sure.
as well. Yes.
Yes.
Daniel is, yes.
Pam Getzapler,
Yes.
It's gonna be a fun one.
Matthew Sutton, I hope he's not there,
Yeah,
sorry.
that's it.
John Saunders,
Yes.
okay, I can't hear anything again.
Yes.
We might have to proceed just without you guys, which is totally manageable, I think.
Yeah.
So that may be the best course of action at this point. We could dedicate another 30 minutes to trying to solve it, but we probably just sort of waste everybody's time back here.
Does this still satisfy the notice that we sent out saying that this would be a hybrid meeting, as
And
long
it's-
as we can hear from the public?
Yeah, and this is not a hybrid meeting. I also think that it may just be a technical difficulty on Dee's side. I think Justin
Sounds
is
like it.
fine, so.
Okay, I just wanna make sure that we would.
Yeah, we'll be legal.
Okay.
Dee, if you can hear me, I'm gonna do a Google Doc with the roll, so that I'll share you on that, so when you do minutes, and I'll see what I can figure out on minutes, so, I can proceed, and then I can, if Corey's reporting on staff reports, John, I can figure out the role and pause if we need to, but.
Okay.
Um,
All right, so let's move on to certificate of appropriateness, and we'll do the staff
Wait,
review.
We gotta finish the vote.
we didn't finish the roll call and we do have
I
an
thought-
additional person.
No.
No, I
We-
thought John was gonna finish the roll.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we need to. So we were at Matt. So John, if you could
Okay.
just remind me who's next on your list.
I was next, and Elizabeth Mitchell,
Yes.
Allison Chopra,
Abstain.
Renard Cross.
Yes.
Duncan Campbell, Kristen Hall, you don't vote, so you're good. I think that's everybody.
Okay. And Doug, you were an abstention, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Everybody else is yes. So I'll get this rolling here. Thank you.
Abstentions.
Doug and Allison, I believe, right?
It's totally
Since you're
Alright.
up here.
Let's move on to staff review, COA 23-21.
So, we actually saw this case last week, 336 South Euclid Avenue with Tim Devine. Actually, the request is not new windows in the back of the building. The request was to remove a window on the side of the building. So I'm going to comment on that instead. It's in the packet. Let me see if it's in the corrected version of the packet. Yeah, removal of the window facing the alleyway. This addition, I actually went and looked at the aerial photographs. This addition, where the removal will happen is a later addition post World War II. And I also have been doing an exercise of looking at the guidelines more carefully. What is staff review? What should be staff? Windows will usually not be staff review. However, the Greater Prospect Hill made it a real point that they want the HPC to concentrate on new construction, demolition, and moving of buildings, and staff to work on changes of materials and a facade, is particularly front-facing facade work. So I, as staff, actually looked at the building, couldn't find it on the Sanborns, but did look at different historical aerial photographs for when the addition was added, and determined that one of the windows could be removed. There's 2 windows, and removing one of them, and staff approved this one. The second staff approval, COA 23-22 for 508 West 3rd Street in the core Prospect Hill Historic District, is for patio hardscape and installation of an arbor. The proposed arbor is not a fence, but it is related in materials and functionality. The placement is proposed midway between the front and back of the lot and would stand on its own at the moment. The proposed hardscape would be made of materials congruent with the neighborhood and be unobtrusive. I did advise the petitioner to consult with the Planning and Transportation Department regarding possible requirements with regards to the hardscape. And here is just a bit more information on the arbor and the materials. He eventually wants to plant, do kind of a plant fence around the arbor. So here's an image on that. And that is it for the staff reviews.
All right, and 80508 West 3rd.
So now 805, wait.
508.
Yeah, 2032 508 West
That's
3rd.
the one I just covered, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were doing Euclid Avenue, but we did both of them at the same time.
Well, I
Okay.
did one and then the other.
Okay.
But sorry.
That's all right. So let's move on to commission review. COA 23-20. 820 West Kirkwood Avenue.
Okay, the petitioner is online.
Yeah, Justin's with us.
So the petitioner, Justin Fox, is requesting to build a detached garage with a living unit on the 2nd floor. Staff comments the following: the proposed structure would be placed on the back of the lot. The materials would match the addition currently being built, which had been approved previously by the HPC, and the neighborhood found no objection to the project. And the Near West Side Design Review Committee reviewed the plan and determined that given the mixed-use zoning of the lot and the fact that the door on the street-facing side of the new garage can be defensively interpreted as the entrance to the apartment, as opposed to the entrance being on the alley, we do not object to the proposal. And so here are 3 different images, plans, where you can see the whole site. The first is an aerial photograph of how it currently looks. The second and the third have sort of the layout of how it will look with both the addition that had already been approved and is being built right now, and with the additional structure. And this is the structure that is being proposed. Let me see, and I can find it, looking here at the, so it would be wood siding and trim windows to match the structure under construction currently. And I do have the petitioner online for additional questions. This is how the lot looks right now. It's a long, thin lot. And that's kind of the footprint of what's going to be built behind the house, or what is being built. And this is the view towards where the proposed garage could be located. And with that being said, staff does recommend approval of COA 23-20.
Thank you, Gloria. Justin, do you have any additional information for us?
I do not. Just want you guys to know that I've worked with the neighborhood and Gloria and planning, and everybody's been great.
Great. Thank you, Justin. We'll go to questions. Daniel, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Elizabeth?
No, I don't.
Renard?
No.
Doug?
No questions.
Allison?
No, thank you.
Kirsten? Duncan? Oh, Sam?
Yeah, this is, I guess, a question for planning and or legal. Since this is an additional dwelling unit and an accessory building, it basically is an accessory dwelling unit. And the petitioner, this is a rental property on the front. Is this legal? Because if you look at the UDO, 20.03.030.G, they gotta live there if they were gonna put an accessory dwelling unit in there. Do we have legal or planning present at the meeting?
Mm-hmm.
We have both.
Oh, where are we? Oh, sorry, couldn't see you back there. What you got?
Yeah, so my understanding correctly that this is multi-family already?
It's MM.
Okay, and then how many units are there right now? Is
One.
it just one unit?
There's gonna, right now, under construction, it's a duplex, so ignore that floor plan inside there, that's an old one. That is the footprint, but currently it's a duplex, it'll be 2 3-bedrooms. That does not include the garage.
Okay.
And talking with Eric, this is the first I've heard about that, so if this is the case, no one's made me aware.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think you can, yeah, you can do an ADU with a duplex.
But doesn't,
But it does have to be, one of them has to be owner occupied.
yeah. So I don't think this is legal.
Yeah.
So I would.
Yeah, that wouldn't work.
No, so at this point, and if they can clear a planning hurdle and we can get an establishment from planning that it somehow clears that hurdle, or Mr. Fox wants to move to Bloomington to this front house, I don't think we should be discussing this.
Well, I'll just jump in very quickly.
Yeah.
To the extent that the owner occupancy requirement, it exists, and I think both Karina and myself, neither of us have had the benefit of having had direct conversations with Mr. Fox. I think this is Eric's petition, Eric Rulick's in planning his petition, so I don't have the full background here. But typically, we wouldn't wanna, if that becomes an issue, it will be an issue regardless of what the HPC does.
That's true.
So
I
you
want
can
to raise
still-
it high, because
Certainly, but you could still hear and vote on this petition tonight if you want to, of course. And then if the planning issue remains an issue, obviously the project would go nowhere in that condition.
all right, fair enough. Got no further questions then, thank you.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. Let's move to comments. Daniel?
I don't think I have any comments then, because I'm just curious where this will go then.
Okay. Elizabeth?
Same here. I'm just curious as why this wasn't brought up before.
Gloria? I think they're curious as why it's in front of us right now without it being through the hurdle of planning.
So, historic preservation and planning, we often work in tandem with each other. Most cases and larger cases such as this one have to go both through planning and through the historic preservation process. but at some point, there's always a little bit, there is the potential for things to bounce back and forth more than once when there are discrepancies between the historic preservation side and the planning side. Some cases don't have to go to planning, such as like a window or a fence. Sometimes that window and fence do have to go through planning. And a lot, so there's kind of a Venn diagram where there's a slice, and then there's always the question of whether people should apply to one first and then the other. Many people come to historic preservation first because oftentimes it's more rigorous. However, the way that the ordinance is, and I think, Mike, you can clarify, or Colleen, if you're up to it, the stricter rule takes precedence, is what I understand. Yeah, and Mike is nodding his head.
Yeah, that's correct.
So,
and that's a general rule when we have any conflict in the municipal code.
Oftentimes, preservation is more strict, but then there are moments, such as with signage or with things in the UDO, where planning is more strict, and therefore it kind of, sometimes things they just go back and forth. So yeah, do you want to chime in, Karina?
I mean, yeah, like we said, one of them has to be owner occupied, so I don't know, if that's just something that the planner that was reviewing this missed.
Okay, so this was actually submitted to planning before being submitted, but it doesn't have to be submitted to planning before.
Okay, so then let's just go ahead and make a determination now with this property, and then if it gets hung up over in planning, it's taken care of over there.
But if I may, isn't this?
Yeah.
Is it relevant what the owner's plans are once? Let me rephrase it. My understanding is that if it's determined in the future that it isn't owner occupied, then that's an enforcement issue. But it doesn't affect us now, because the owner could decide today to live in one of these units, and it would negate the preclusion of or it would negate what's the word I'm looking for? Any reason that it couldn't be built. Am I making any
They have
sense?
to put deed restrictions and stuff on this if they want to do an ADU.
Right.
To live there, so.
Right. I mean, the fact that both units have rental permits and could be rented, the owner could occupy one of them if he
But
wants.
The owner has to occupy.
But I don't think
He
that's
has
a
to.
purview necessarily.
It's not, you're right.
What's going on with the property, who lives there, who doesn't live there. Really, our preview is to decide whether or not we like their plan and what they want to do, if it meets with the guidelines of the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever lives in it and whatever happens after that, or with planning and how many people can be in there, or the ADU, that's up to planning. I think ours is to make a decision to decide
Right, that
whether
was
we
the
like
point
it.
I was making.
Okay.
Whatever other issues there are doesn't affect what we're doing now.
Right.
That's an issue
But the
for
way
enforcement
the way
later
we're
on.
understanding it now, this project isn't even eligible for a hearing.
That's my call.
So I don't.
We can hear it.
But my
I think
my
we
thought
can.
on that, what my comment was gonna be there is that, but it's before us, and we don't ask Gloria to look at the UDO, and so we have it before us to, at least as we've said on projects in the past, to talk about the merits of,
The historic
the
value.
historic fabric, and if this is allowed or not, within our purview, and then it's up to planning to, because it's before us. Now, typically, these things get caught before it gets here through planning. We don't know. There may be another exception in the UDO that allows this. I don't know. But yeah. But I guess I'm looking at it saying, that is your choice then to put it off, to postpone it to another meeting, or do we go ahead and discuss the merits now because it's here? We don't have to make this discussion on whether the owner lives there or not, or whether the planning missed something or not.
That's not our business.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, we don't, and I'll make this my comment, we don't, for example, investigate for a single-family unit, how many people are gonna live in it. That's a totally separate issue that happens after or sometime later in the future sometime. So, I mean, it's not, that's just, it makes no sense for us to evaluate who's going to live in the home after
But I see, I
any
mean,
improvement or
what they're
something.
saying though, I mean,
I get what
is
the
it,
concern.
we shouldn't discuss it, cause it
I don't
isn't.
completely
We could.
disagree
I'm happy
with
to
that.
discuss it.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's gonna come to fruition.
Well,
Yeah, fair point.
And now, planning is, on alert, and they will most likely, make sure that our UDO and everything is being followed once
UDO.
someone's occupying it. I would assume that that's gonna be a high radar issue for them, right?
There's no question about that.
Yeah.
Commissioner Chopra.
Yeah,
Alright.
okay, thank you. So I would,
So-
I'd make a unique comment. Has everyone commented?
We're just discussing right
Oh, I
now,
know.
Questions, I think.
answering questions to move forward, but
No questions, I had my comment.
as I said, I think we should go ahead and move on and take care of this. And then,
Can I
Okay.
make a motion, Mr. Chair?
we haven't had discussion yet on the project.
Having some discussion.
So I was just going through till we got hung up.
I don't know what the difference is.
Anyway. Bernard, do you have any comments for Justin Fox?
Nah.
Okay, we are in
Good,
conversation.
exhausted.
Doug,
It's
you
called
have any
red.
comments?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with the project. And I, also, another comment would be is we're going to see more ADUs because the city now, the website is live with the ADUs on it. So we're gonna see more ADUs in a lot of the core neighborhoods, I'm sure. So that'll be something I think planning will end up having to deal with. And again, my other point was is that when something is before us and they've worked with planning, I think we have to take that this project's in front of us, it meets whatever planning has deemed it meets, and we aren't discussing that merit. We're not asking Gloria to be up to speed on the UDO and every bit of its nuances. So we discuss the projects here and move on.
Thank you, Doug. Allison,
I've made my comment.
thank you. Kirsten,
No comments.
Duncan,
I totally disagree with everything Doug said. I don't think we should be spending our time on a project that isn't legal at this moment. It shouldn't have gotten here. And it's not, I'm sorry that somebody made that mistake, but from all I've heard, it shouldn't have gotten to us. And so that's why here, send it back to planning, that's what I would do.
I do want to just offer a couple of comments. There are a couple of things that I think make Karina and I uncomfortable, and it's that, particularly Karina, the planner who specifically worked with Justin, and Justin may have some additional comments, I see his hands raised, is not present. And so we aren't entirely familiar with everything that was discussed, or if there's something we're unaware of that might be relevant to the point that Sam brought up. I do very much appreciate that Sam brought it up, though, because the risk that we're generally concerned about when somebody issues a COA or issues a conditional use permit is that petitioners will take that as the final step, that they sort of have been given this blessing and now they can go forward and everything's done. And the city has blessed this project. I really appreciate that we brought it up because I think it's quite clear to Justin that even if the HBC were to approve this petition tonight, he understands crystal clear at this moment that that does not mean it is time to get the shovels in the ground, right? There's clearly some questions that need to be answered. So that addresses my general concern when we spend time on things. Approve a petition for somebody. I do also think you're raising a good point, Duncan, which is that we don't like to waste our time on petitions that may turn out to be totally irrelevant, that this project might have to come back to the HPC again, looking different, if in fact it does violate the UDO. But I think we're pretty close to the end of this one, so I don't think we're talking about a huge amount of time that the HPC will spend on it. I think we're pretty close to a vote, so.
I just stick with what I said. I think it should go, if a mistake was made at planning and it got here through that mistake, then it needs to go back to planning and you need to reconsider it, they need to reconsider it, and then we'll hear it after you've made up your mind if this is a legal project or not. That's my point.
But I don't think you can assume that planning has made an error or a mistake. Because again, they don't.
He just told us that they don't know yet.
The two people in the room don't know.
Yeah.
I'm saying you can't assume that they have made a mistake based on occupancy. I mean, they can approve it and say, yes, this is approved, so long as these are the people that live in this home, but, I mean, that might not even be part of their approval process of, I mean, you don't have to say you have to list the renters of the home before you
If it's
build
an
it?
ADU, you do.
You have to list who's gonna live
You
in the home.
have to, yeah, you have, if you read the UDO, which I would recommend you do.
Well, I passed it, so go ahead.
You
I'll
passed the
I'll
UDO?
pass the UDO, I voted for it, go ahead.
Okay, let's move on.
I
Justin,
mean, I voted yes.
Justin,
Yes, John.
can you enlighten us on some of this stuff, or do you have some more
Sure.
comments for us?
So I don't want to assume that it's not a legal unit, first of all. I've met with Eric multiple times. And also, something I didn't add to this, the west unit is being built for my son. So is it now owner occupied? I don't know if that makes a difference. Again,
Who owns the house?
clearly we're not, planning's not gonna approve something that's not legal, and I'm sure there's steps that need to take place after this meeting and going forward, but, I can assure you, I've had multiple meetings with Eric, and I've got emails to where he's even saying to go ahead with the site plan. We had to work through a bunch of things, and this has just never come up. And I do wanna add that the west unit is being built for my son. So I don't know technically if that even checks the box, if in fact it does need to be owner occupied. And I appreciate you guys' time.
Thank you, Jesse.
If I may
Renard?
ask, and if the commission will allow me 90 seconds just to educate you. What does it mean to be owner occupied? Is it just enough to be the owner and have it as my legal residence, even if somebody else is physically living there? I mean, a divorced couple, for example. I could be the owner of my house, but my wife legally resides there as the occupant. Does that, I mean, he made a valid point. His son is living there. Is it
He's
owner
not the owner.
occupied because he is listed as the owner, but his son is physically occupying the property? Or does he need to physically occupy the property? And then what are the guidelines to physical occupancy? I mean, I don't know these things.
Go ahead. You can speak first.
No, no.
We're pointing at you, Mike.
Yeah, so we can come up with a lot of hypotheticals that run right on the line here. So I don't know if, in terms of when the annual affidavit is filled out, or the certificate of owner occupancy is completed, I'm not sure precisely how much planning has allowed people to have some flexibility there. My sense is that generally you would want the person who's actually occupying it, if they are not a minor, right? You would want them to actually live there. So one indication that is used is like if that's a primary residence where somebody is applying for homestead credit, right, as their primary residence, that would be an indication that that's owner occupied for us. That's an obvious indication. Sorry.
That's a standard that would
That is-
normally be used.
There may, sometimes owner occupancy and the homestead credit don't line perfectly up, but for the most part, often they do. So that can be one indication for us that we know that it's owner occupied, if that makes sense.
But again, it's part of planning's decision, not ours at this
Can I make a motion?
point. Absolutely. No, actually,
We're not through discussion
I haven't
yet.
gotten
You've
to-
discussed quite a bit, and you've also been,
We gotta get Sam on, he hasn't made his comments.
That's not gonna make
And Doug made his comments.
yeah.
There's some early big comments.
So I want to apologize if I've muddied the waters here. All I meant to do was raise a flag. I've raised the flag. The flag's up there. Planning will do with it what they want. The ADU legislation was very contentious because many people were concerned about developers coming in from out of town and doing, densifying properties that they didn't live on and had two rental incomes. That said, I think the project is, architecturally, historically, it's fine. The only other flag I would raise, which I don't necessarily want discussed, is that the unit appears to be, the walls appear to be exactly on the setbacks, and there appears to be an eave. And if you have an eave, it needs to be, no, it doesn't need to be, that's a big lie. Okay, I retract that. I just got in trouble where my garage was off the property, and that was off the property, so it was just off the property. But, you know, for as far as the project itself goes, I've got no issues with it.
Thank you, Sam. I don't have any comments. We are now, do we have any comments from our guests? Okay, hearing none. Allison, you want to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
John?
Okay. All right, Daniel Schlegel.
Yes.
Sorry, one moment. Okay. Sam DeSaller.
I'll abstain.
John Saunders.
Yes.
Doug Bruce.
Yes.
Liz Mitchell.
Yes.
Allison Chopra.
Yes.
Bernard Cross.
Yes.
Motion carries, 6 yes, 1 abstention.
Thank you, Justin. Good luck.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
You too. Okay, let's move on to COA 2323. Northwest corner of First Street and Rogers, the core building, historic district. I think we have a presentation.
Sure.
Or Gloria, do you want to cover it? And
Chair?
then- Yeah,
Do you want to take over, or?
yeah. let's,
If you wanna make your comments on,
Okay,
whatever.
okay,
Okay.
perfect. So, the petitioners, we have Barry Clapper, but there's additional petitioners, are requesting for the construction of a addition to the core building historic district. And staff comments the following: the proposed addition carefully combines the need to balance the form and aesthetic of a new structure with a historic one while looking different. The addition is taller, but would have a substantial setback from the front facade facing the facade of the core building. And this is with the understanding that the core building is already uphill and is retracted quite a bit far away from the street. The petitioner has also incorporated the feedback, or took into account the feedback of the Historic Preservation Commission, particularly in lightening the color of the proposed materials for the addition. Staff recommends approval of COA 23-23. And I just wanted to show some, just what's in the packet. I put the materials with the fiber cement board panels and the V panels. So there's different materials used, including limestone, which is more reminiscent of the historic structure, along with the vinyl windows that would be on the addition and the storefront, aluminum storefront system. Here are some photos. The first photos show different angles of the building. The bottom, I like the bottom left one because it does show that the core building is not just a rectangle, but actually is more of an L. And also showing where the building's umbilical cord was cut from the rest of the hospital when that was demolished. And here are additional images of that sort of interstitial area in between. And so here we start seeing the historic core building is the structure right smack in the middle, and the addition is the one towards the left. And here you can see it's more like actually the original building is more of a Tetris block, like the T Tetris. Anyways. And the new addition is bigger, it's longer, but it's more, in a way, more tucked away. We don't have to talk about the internal mechanisms or plans unless it actually impacts the exterior, but here are the images anyways for reference. So this is the elevation, the west elevation of the new structure, where it emulates the patterning, sort of an abstraction of the already simplified Art Deco with the combination of limestone and newer materials. The east elevation. So this part is less visible from the street or from the outside because it's kind of tucked away in. Just going through all of the different elevations. And here are some of the, I did try to agglomerate all of the perspectives to save slides. Yeah, and with that, the presentation is done.
Thank you, Gloria. No, Barry.
So, hi everyone, I'm Barry Clapper from Spring Point Architects, and Todd Rotman is here from Rotman Collier Architects in Indianapolis. And we also have Brinshaw, who is the developer. Peter Levavie is joining us via Zoom this evening. We were here your last hearing for an informal discussion. I know some of you were not present at that. I'm happy to give an overview of the project if you find it helpful. Otherwise, I will just pick up with some of the changes that we made from the feedback that we received from you last time. So the information I would share is what is included in your packet, just about the overall approach to the project, what the project consists of, the scope of the project. Is everybody okay with that? If I'm able to move on. Okay. So there were a number of changes we wanted to call your attention to, and I just want to I have one clarification, and that this plan is actually the original plan that was part of our response to an RFP that the city issued. This was when we had thought that we actually had more property to work with than we ended up having because of the location of Jackson Street. So that is, in essence, why we had to go from 3 stories to 4 stories, because it was not our first it was not our preference, I should say. Okay, so we had to tighten things up, and in order to maintain the integrity of the project, this project is going for historic tax credits and for affordable housing tax credits as well. And so there are just certain things that are dictated in terms of unit counts and stuff to make the project be able to qualify. So after our last discussion, we took all of your comments under advisement, and you will see that there were a number of changes. So just quickly, the first one, the top story, we lightened that. We kind of darkened up the body, the mass, and that top story, rather than having that dark, impactful color, we sort of lightened that up to lessen that visually. And we were able to step that framing back slightly, about 4 inches, and also enhance the articulation of the cornice at that point between the change of materials to help a visual kind of recession, if you will, of that top story, to make that read a little bit more clearly.
Yeah, if you could switch to that composite of the 4 renderings, that would probably be best.
There you go.
And the colors are a little bit muted on this screen, so we're not going with a gray on gray scheme. It's more warm tones, the actual colors.
It's a bit richer than what's being portrayed here. So that was one change that we made. Another was further articulation of the vertical panels, the vertical grouping of the 2 top story windows in the core building sort of forms a unit, and we are working with that kind of language, however translating that from stone into trim. And so we have worked to get some more play of shadow and depth.
If you could go to the next
If you could get to
page, which has some more
details.
close-ups.
So you can see how that's stacked now. We have three layers of trim in order to help create that depth, in addition to changing the depth of the studs between the windows, just to gain some more inches where we can. So we think that that will read more effectively as a vertical element across the facade. The other change that we made is we are no longer showing the stair towers clad in limestone, but rather we have gone to the fiber cement board cladding to make that more homogeneous. Because those forms were taller than the core building, we really felt that it was, those masses were a bit too dominant in relation to the core. So this way, it's more of a homogeneous treatment rather than a calling out of those stair tower elements that we think is more successful. And then lastly, the front entry, and you can maybe go back to the previous slide, Gloria. That front entry, we have now stepped that back in stages in limestone that echoes the treatment of the pour at the entry. That has kind of a cool beveled, stacking, and so we are we're kind of referencing that echo of form in that element. So those were really our main changes from our last hearing, and we look forward to hearing your comments this go around. Is that good?
That's it? Okay, great, thank you. So let's move to questions. Daniel, have you got any questions?
No, I don't believe so.
Elizabeth?
Not at this time.
All right. Bernard? Todd?
Yeah, just a couple, and I didn't make the first hearing, but reading the statement and looking at the drawings, so it'll be a tax credit project. So you talk about matching the existing windows, so I assume the existing windows are not replacement, are they historic, and those will be refurbished?
Thank you for the question.
Okay, yeah.
The existing windows in the core building are not original.
Okay.
They were replaced at some time in the 70s or 80s. They're storefront. They're basically an aluminum window, I should say, an aluminum anodized aluminum window. Those we intend will stay. What we are matching are the head heights and the heights of the windows.
Yeah, so on each floor, the windows are different heights in the core. We're matching those, not only window heights, but the head heights and elevation across the building.
Okay, that gets one of the questions, and that's good, thanks for that. And then the
Sure.
other is, then I assume, and again, I haven't been up close, I've only been as close as the fence will allow me.
Sure.
Tuck pointing, existing facade, I mean,
We will, things are in relatively
Yeah,
decent
yeah.
condition, but yeah, there will be some regular maintenance also, in addition to the repair and remediation work that will happen on the north side.
Yeah, that north and kind of turning around to the west portion of it, they poured a couple piers into the existing core building, integral with the structure to support the new building. In conversations with our historic tax credit advisors, they want to leave those, so that they reflect what happened to the building, right?
well, and like I figured, that because of the tax credit, those are things that'll have to be done to meet that, I guess, that process. So that's all the questions I've got.
Thanks, Judge. Allison?
Yes, will this project need to go in front of the council?
It will not.
Okay. And then, has there been any, application for funds from the BUA at all?
No,
Okay.
not that I know of.
No other questions?
Unless Peter has more information on that, but I do not believe so.
So we have not submitted any financing applications yet. The first one is going to be on July 1st to IHCDA.
Okay, thank you. Sure.
Right, thanks, Allison. Kirsten?
No questions.
Duncan?
Yeah, so I'm still a little confused about what's gonna happen where the disruption happened on the north facade. There's a slide, Gloria, that shows.
Yeah, if you want to
It
go
shows the
back.
infill and the scars of repair or disassembly. That's not it.
The photos?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there we go.
Yes, our intention is to go back to all the original openings. A lot of the headers are still in place for those.
So those are
there's-
the openings that we see filled in with concrete block.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you can kind of see little headers sticking out
Yeah.
on some of them already. There's some places where limestone has been removed or it's been, had holes put in it. So we have a lot of limestone replacement that has to happen as
Okay.
well.
Okay. So those are exposed facades primarily, but there's a garage that covers part of it. Right?
No, it's a courtyard. It's a courtyard. I mean, it is sort of in recess, if you will. It's not really
Okay, in that
prominent.
that part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not blocking any of the existing core except for that western edge where it was attached to the
Yeah.
hospital.
Okay. Okay. So is it fair to say that that facade is going to be returned to its original configuration and fenestration?
Yes. Yes.
And you'll put the storefront, the storefront windows in there and match everything on the original building?
I think we should, yes.
The storefront windows, it was always an uneven pattern. So the top sash was larger than the bottom sash. So that, from photographic evidence, was followed when they replaced the wood windows with the aluminum windows.
It's pretty surprising, right?
Yeah, it is a
You go to
little
the storefront, but they still kept the same pattern.
Mhm. Okay. I don't have any other questions.
All right, Sam?
Couple of questions. One is a sort of a metal finish question. The existing replacement storefront is a mill finish at this point, and then you're putting in some vinyl windows in the new building. So talk to me about the finishes of the new storefront, the new windows, and the new canopy awning thing.
Sure. Do you want to
Yeah.
take that?
So all of the new elements are going to be a dark bronze. So we're not going to try to match that silvery color
Mhm.
because it's not really an appropriate kind of window replacement. And so we like the windows to kind of read as, you know, recesses, and doing a darker color there we think helps do that.
Because the other question I have is, what is so you've got this metal, this corrugated, well, it's not corrugated, but it's like a standing seam-ish metal panel stuff that
Right.
you're putting on the third floor and then coming down
That's
the
the
spandrels
inverse.
and la-da-da.
Yeah.
So what's the reveal on the fin? It's like every 4 inches, how far does it come out?
If we could go to that
It
sheet, it shows.
I just didn't see a measurement on the,
Oh, in the depth, I can get
Yeah.
you
Yeah, I
that.
think the depth on this one was a 3/4 inch deep. We picked one that was fairly deep. And that's probably a 5 1/4 inch spacing between the vertical ribs.
yeah. So then the plan is below the windowsill, because you've got this fin sticking out, you're gonna have to do a Z flash over that at every panel break.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we will.
Okay.
Yes.
I think that's what I got for questions. Thank you.
I don't have any questions at this point, so let's move to comments. Sam, you want any comments?
Sure. I just want to say thank you. It is I'm massively happier than I was last time, and I didn't mean to sound so grumpy last time, but you know, it's, but I think the massing is so much cleaner than it was before. And I appreciate that the stair towers don't pop up to the roof. That said, I have a couple of concerns, mainly around this metal stuff. I think this metal stuff, it's not gonna wear well on a public housing project. It's especially at the garage, at street level, at pedestrian level. So I would strongly encourage you to move all that to the roof and leave it there. Move it all up to that third floor. Like, get rid of all those drop downs and just keep it simple, because it's gonna get dented, it's gonna get ugly, and it's gonna be a maintenance issue.
If we could switch back to probably the 4 renderings. So we actually don't have the metal on the first floor at all, it does stop.
So what is around the garage? It's rendered as metal.
What garage are you speaking of?
On the upper right hand in the middle,
Oh,
that thing.
okay, yeah.
That looks like metal to me.
Yes, yeah, so get rid of that.
I would strongly suggest you make it something that people aren't gonna run their bikes into,
Okay.
blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
It's just asking to get big dents in it. So I've got one other question, which is, I guess, more of a comment. It's what it is. You have all this fiber cement coming down to the ground.
Well, it won't.
Yeah, so what will it do?
Well, it will be held off the ground.
And what happens below it?
It'll be the exposed concrete for 4 inches.
Okay. That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Duncan?
Yeah, I like it a lot better. And I like the other version. Okay. I'd rather see more setback on the 4th floor. I'd rather not see the 4th floor.
Said it like.
I'll just be honest with you. It troubles me.
I agree with you on that.
And I know there are reasons for it, and not the least of which is money, but I think thinking about secretary standards, I don't think 4 inches setback and the cornice improvement, which does enhance the setback slightly, is gonna be adequate to diminish its impact. I don't think it's gonna diminish it enough. And so I think you're gonna have to give up some square footage and get it back a couple of feet at least. And that's my minimum kind of for reducing the upper floors. And I get the cost of it, but I think it's, even though you changed the color and you lightened it, it's not going away in any picture I've seen of it. And it feels like it's just added on top because we've just got to get some more bedrooms in here, and I'm sure that probably is the reason, but I didn't find the secretary very amenable to that issue when I presented it to him. So I just think at least try to try to increase the setback.
Okay.
Thanks, Duncan. Kirsten, any comments?
No comments.
Allison?
No, thank you.
Doug?
Yeah, a couple of things. First, I'll start with just what Duncan said, and I agree with Duncan on that it seems to almost still overwhelm the core building. And I think when we look at it from street level down below, it may have more of a towering vision than we see now from some of these renderings. But that being said, a couple of things. One is I wish Chris Sturbaum was here, because I remember all the hearings and meetings and discussion we had about, boy, that we've got to save this, we can't tear this core building down. And I think this is a process and a project that shows that you can save it and it can be worthwhile. And it may take that 4th floor to do it, but here sits the building. And so I appreciate that. And then I would add that I also appreciate your efforts in this design, and to me, the depth of design, even going to the windows and other things that you've done. So I think you've done a good job on it. So that's all the comments I've got.
Thank you. Bernard? Elizabeth?
Thank you. I think you've done a good job, and I like what I see.
Daniel?
Mine are similar to Liz's. I think some of those details, and it looks really nice from what I remember from before. So thanks for the attention to detail.
I don't have anything to add. I think my fellow commissioners have covered about everything. Oh yes, I'm getting them. Thank you. You all know me too well now. Richard, I see you have your hand up.
Give me 1 second. There you go.
All right.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Great, thanks. Richard Lewis, a Prospect Hill neighborhood resident and member of a small group that we self-named Hopewell Group that held meetings, local meetings in the past couple of years, knowing that this neighborhood was going to open up. And I'm thrilled to see that so much effort has been put into
preserving the core building, which I think is an important aspect of this whole Hopewell neighborhood project. And I appreciate the work that Barry and team have done to take your suggestions and improvements. It certainly looks improved to me visually. And the fourth floor addition looks less monolithic, less kind of forbidding as it did in the darker version earlier. I would just point out to the members of the commission that from street level along Rogers there, it is a very steep slope upward. That front lawn is a very steep incline from street level up to the front door of the core building. I have to wonder, and I am not an architect, I'm not a rendering specialist, but from street level, I don't know that I would see that fourth floor addition at all, just from angle and perspective. I realize obviously if you're on First Street, or if you're from an angle further up Rogers, yes, of course it's going to be visible, but the public way facade view, I think you're largely going to see the core building. But at any rate, kudos to all that have worked so hard to preserve this and make it a truly functional building with housing that helps with our housing needs and our affordable housing needs, especially going into the future. So thanks to all.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Thank you, Richard, for your comments. I'd also like to introduce that we have Jan Kaur with us this evening and her daughter. And would you guys like to give us some comments about the property?
Well, it's certainly very impressive to see all of you here and to see the renderings and to have your impressions. We are here really just to gather information, for our own selves. And as I look at this, I think Bud would be very pleased. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming this evening. Okay. Any other comments from our visitors this evening? All right, thank you. We need a motion to approve COA 2323.
So moved. Second.
Thank you.
Just a second, please. Okay. Daniel Schlegel.
Yes.
Sam Soller.
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Yes, okay. John Saunders.
Yes.
Doug Bruce.
Yes.
Liz Mitchell.
Yes.
Allison Chopra.
Yes.
Bernard Cross.
Yes.
And motion carries 7-0.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all so
Shane.
much,
Thank
really.
you.
Thank you very much.
Todd. And
Thank you so much. And this is Peter Levavi. I'm with Brinshore Development, the developer, and I just want to thank you all for really caring about architecture in Bloomington. The city has been fabulous to work with. John Zodi is a national treasure. I'm just thrilled that we're going to be able to work together to preserve this really important building, working together with the city and everybody here. So thank you so much for approving it.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for all the work that you did to maintain it and keep it together for us.
Great.
Okay. Let's move on to new business. I think Gloria has it up, a new application form that she's going to talk to us about.
Yeah, so as commission,
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Go ahead. I'll take care of it.
Okay.
That's all right.
So as commissioners, okay, there's a lot going on, but as commissioners, all of you have to read the applications because they are part of the packet. As the staff, I have to process all of the applications, and some of you are also petitioners every once in a while, and you fill out these applications. I noticed that they haven't really changed at all in over 20 years, just the most minor of tweaks. Right now, the caseload is growing pretty quickly. As in last year, we had 94 COAs, individual COAs that were submitted, and we saw 102 COA cases, including the repeats, the ones that were tabled and returned to us. So that's a lot of work for all of us. And so I just wanted to be able to get the information that I actually use in a way that's very clear, that's concise. So I'm just bringing this to you so that you can see it. It's not for like a full review, but if there's anything that stands out that you're like, wait a minute, that's wonky, or that's weird, or that doesn't make any sense, you can flag it, let me know. I'll probably be testing it out in the next month or so. And seeing how that goes. I also included instructions to the petitioner, including hyperlinks where they can find the historic district and fill that part out, and the survey, and also what their building is surveyed so they can fill that out. I'm not going to ask them to guess what the survey rating for their property is, or what their or what the parcel number is. So I just put as many hyperlinks as I could. But I also gave the checklist, so whenever somebody calls me, I literally go to the Certificate of Appropriateness webpage and copy paste all of that information into an email and send it to them. With this, I can just send them this packet with these 3 pages, and they have everything in one go. I'm just trying to find ways to, because I am also my secretary, I'm also my office manager, I'm also my inspector. So having all these different little hats on all the time and trying for them not to fall off all the time, just trying to do this. And then the other part of it, this is just bonus material to upload so that people can have more resources. One of the biggest complaints I get from the HPC, from all of you, and it is such a valid complaint, is ugly drawings. I'm not gonna try to smooth it out or anything. A lot of people who are working on their own homes are not going to contract an architect or an engineer, and even the builders or carpenters are not expert drawers. So at least with this, I just try to give a sort of a sample of what it might look like, a drawing could look like, with some tips, tips and suggestions, like using a ruler. Some people don't understand that. I've received documents that look like a 5-year-old drew them. And when they come to you, and the part that the commission doesn't necessarily see is me calling petitioners over and over them, trying to get them to send me better drawings. And they send me better drawings, but they're not up to the standard of the HPC. So there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that doesn't get to us. So this may or may not pan out. They may or may not use it, but I do want to offer additional resources online that might make somebody's life a little easier. This would be a separate document that they could download if they so chose to, and I'll put like images of it on the web page so that they can see the resource if they wanted to. Anyways, that's that on that.
Thank you, Gloria. And so we don't need approval. Yeah. So I don't think Gloria needs our approval or anything, but just letting us know what's going on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gloria. So
I'm gonna make a motion towards the end of the meeting that might affect instruction number 7, just to put that out there.
Oh.
A motion for, so, it's concerning hybrid meetings. It just says that we meet every other Tuesday at 5 o'clock by hybrid. And
It's supposed to be Thursday, yeah.
does it say Thursday? I'm sure it says Thursday. Does it say?
It does say
Fourth Thursday.
Second and fourth
Yeah,
Thursday.
so it's fine. What I'm trying to say is, should my motion carry and something happen of it, then you'd wanna revise this.
You mean in the hybrid fashion?
Yes. I'm gonna make a motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good with that. Should we go ahead? Why don't we go ahead
Yeah.
and take care of it right now, Alice?
Okay, sure. So I would like to make a motion, to add to the agenda for next time. For next- Yeah, what's that?
Yeah, go on.
A motion that the chair, or just, I guess I probably just have to request the chair, because you're in charge of the agenda, correct? But we can make it a formal motion, to eliminate the hybrid nature of these meetings, so that we can have better attendance and it's fair to everyone and make sure that we're getting the appropriate amount of people here and votes. I'd like that to be an agenda item.
Okay,
Just an agenda item. That's all I'm
okay.
asking.
We will, Gloria, we have, that's an agenda item. And the other thing I want to add, since we're talking about adding some stuff,
Yeah.
is I want us to try and get a group together to talk about alternative roofing for historic homes. Because we ran into that a while back ago with one of the petitioners wanting to use composite or whatever that stuff was. That she wants
Plastic.
to use.
It was plastic, yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, we're gonna see this come up more and more.
Do you wanna just limit it to roofing or just alternative?
No, I think
Material?
we just limit, I just want
Just
to limit
roofing?
to roofing. Because that's, right now you can put right now you can put on just a regular dimensional shingle roof. But like in that case, she wanted to use something like more like slate. And we were struggling with it, but I think we need to look at new materials being offered out there. Because I think we'll see it again in the future.
Arlene had some good ones.
Yeah, so, you know, we might want to do a subcommittee or something, we'll figure that out at our next meeting, but we'll put it on our agenda to discuss. Okay, do we have any old business? We do.
Oh, old business, just very quickly. We were going to see the 2521 North First Drive case today, but the owner, they retracted, but they're gonna resubmit for the next meeting. All of this happened in the time that I was preparing the agenda, so I was erasing and putting back and taking out and putting back, so the agenda looks a little weird. So it's gonna be a completely new resubmittal, but it will be almost identical with some corrected things and a little bit of clarification on the limestone, on what could be the new limestone versus the old limestone. But yeah, that was it.
Okay, thanks, Gloria. So, do we have some commissioner comments?
I have a question.
Yes,
Have we
please.
found anybody yet? On Fess and Second and or?
No. I still have a lot of NOVs lined up and a pending meeting with legal. That's probably gonna happen much sooner rather than later, now that we have, oh, by the way, we have new legal representation. Mike, do you want, yeah?
Hello.
I'm
I'm now your attorney.
Oh, okay, great. So
Where
we
are you
have,
going? Oh, I was pinch hitting the whole time. I got him a full plate, so.
but Megan's gonna be our new.
I get used to.
Well, they're easing you into it right now.
I may be with you for a few more meetings before we completely pass it.
Great, well, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Bring snacks.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Well, she's new, she doesn't know.
I'm gonna do that, she's my friend, I'm not gonna do that to her.
All right.
Fine.
Nice try.
Do we have any public comments? All right. Hearing none, we are adjourned.